place. Hi. Oh, there's so many cute people here.
Yes, we're going to just kind of wait a few minutes to let people kind of roll through and join as they want. Quick question. I do invite people to tip our guests. Is Venmo the best for you if they want to do that?
Yeah. If people want a Venmo Kind of Blue review, I'm collecting a pool to pay people in the show who are full-time giggers. So it will go straight to performers in the show.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to Venmo at Kind of Blue review. I'm going to pin that on our post.
Cute. Hi, honey. All right, how are we doing here? I feel like a grandma when I'm setting this up.
What?
I was like, I don't know how to join a live video.
Oh my gosh. It's like one of those things that's kind of awkward at first, and the more you do it, you kind of get used to it. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of limitations to it, but I've been having fun with it. And once you kind of get going, like for example, like Star just literally live every day. It's the best thing.
Oh yeah.
She's totally normalized it for all of us.
Star is one of the best people to pay attention to during quarantine. Like shelter in place cannot contain her personality.
Exactly. She's been so awesome.
She's amazing.
Well, so one of the fun things about Instagram Live is that they cut us out right at an hour.
Great.
So we're gonna get going so we can have all the time with you as much as possible. And yeah, so I usually do a little introduction of our guests to let people know who you are, and then we'll dive into the questions, all right? So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Clara Bodacious, and she is the triple threat we all aspire to be. She's a performer, an event producer, and a FMC. She's the creator of Kind of Blue Review, a production that's rocked out the Bay Area scene like no other. She's a sharpshooter with a big vision and an even bigger heart. She's the lady behind all things big and blue. She is Clara Bodacious. Please welcome Clara.
Thank
I'm sure
you.
all clapping. We just can't hear it right now.
I have goosebumps. That made me happy. That was so sweet.
I'm so grateful that you said yes to doing this. I think it's I think going live is vulnerable. You know, it's like you don't know who's watching. You know, you can see all your pores.
Yeah, all of them. I put on primer today though, so it was really caking it up.
Fabulous. I did this in 3 minutes. Yeah, it is a vulnerable thing. So, and even some of the stuff that I'm trying to talk about with people, it's not easy to talk about while we're going through it. So I just want to say thank you again for doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, because this is technically through High Femme Curations, I don't do it on that platform quite yet because I'm letting the account build and I want to get as far as reach as possible. That's what I'm doing on my personal one right now. But because it's through High Femme, I do like to talk about kind of the queer journey of our guests. And so if you can kind of just as much or as little as you want to share with us about your identity around being queer, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's been, for someone who's grown up in the Bay Area and has been surrounded by queer people and deeply invested in the queer community, I'm always a little bit quiet about my queerness. I think we all have our life needs, and I have shied away from being very loud about it online, but I have always identified as, I'm grappling with the language. When I was younger, I called it bisexual. These days, I identify as queer because I found myself attracted to people across gender spectrums and representations. And I am in a hetero marriage with kids, which is lovely, and we are polyamorous. And so we see other people, and I have a beautiful femme partner who's also part of the burlesque world, who just means the world to me. And it's been really fun to learn how to navigate the private and public parts of my life. And so I was excited to do this and be able to sort of talk about it more openly than I usually do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for that and that little snippet into what your queerness looks like. And I think that's really important to definitely have, like you said, I know a lot of folks who have like straight or hetero appearing relationships that are so queer, and yeah, exactly.
Hella queer.
Yeah.
And it's hard too, because I don't feel entitled to speak for the broader queer community because I am straight passing, and I'm hyper aware of that privilege that I move through the world without having to confront my queerness in a lot of places in life. So I try to keep that in mind, but at the same time, like, be my authentic self and accept who I am and the way that it's manifested in my life.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. So we are going to kind of dive into kind of what this series has been about, which is I call it Shelter and Sparkle, but really just about, God, this crazy experience we're all going through right now that we're all taking in so differently. And I've done a few of these already, and each person just, you know, has a different lens when it comes to it. You know, we all have different privileges in the situation that we're all in and certain disadvantages. So kind of, can you just talk about the moment when it really started to sink in that everything as we knew it would really is just going to pause and be on hold, specific to production and burlesque and all of that, but it can be just in your own personal like life too, like how, where were you?
Oh, I remember exactly where I was. So I think I understood the gravity of the situation a little bit before most people.
Yeah.
In my moonlighting life, I produce burlesque events and I perform and I MC. And then in my daytime life, I also do events for a company. And I was supposed to be at South by Southwest and throwing a couple major like music industry activations there. And I have a good friend at work who sits right across from me, and his family lives in Hong Kong. And he was telling me what things were like, and he was like, I don't think South by Southwest is going to happen. And this was long before things started getting canceled. And I was like, you're crazy. They have never canceled this. They're not going to cancel it. Mm-hmm. And then the news kept building, and I kept seeing things dropping, and the reality started to sink in. And this friend took me out to coffee one day at work, and he was like, you need to go to the grocery store. You need to buy 6 months of food for you and the kids. You need to make sure you're stocked up on stuff. This is what it's going to look like. The hospitals are going to get really bad. And he had like, he'd seen into the future because he was so in touch with what was happening in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. So that day I called my husband and I was like, this is what I need you to do. I have to go. I had like a couple more meetings at work. I went and got a stiff drink with a good friend whose theater had to shut down that day as well. And then I went home and like we buckled in for the long run. And this was before other people sort of knew. And so I don't know if you remember, like for the Bay Area Legends Challenge, people didn't quite understand, like, is this just a bad flu? Like, what is it? And I was really hyped up about the Legends, and I was really concerned about them coming. And I think everyone thought I was being a little over dramatic. And I also happened to get horribly sick that weekend. Yes. Was it COVID? We don't know. There's no testing. But that was around the time when I realized that everything was happening, and my whole identity is built around events. And so it was just crushing. I felt like all the things that give me energy and life and I feel like I add value to the world, the rug was just pulled under me in, the course of 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
I do remember the Legends Challenge, and I do remember you being one of the first people who really vocalized the seriousness behind what was. I mean, I have to admit, I even was more on the spectrum of like, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, the week before I was too. Like literally the week before I was like, I'm going to South by. I'm not going to miss this. Like, are you kidding? I'll get sick. I don't care. And then, I mean, even still, we're absorbing like what this means and trying to figure out how to navigate it. So I feel it.
It's still new, It feels like it's been like a reality forever, but it's only been a little over a month. And I think we're all I'm a slow processor. So, I think, as each extension is kind of happened, Shelter and Sparkle, I think it's sinking in that this is going to be a new reality for a minute, and that's traumatizing to really accept, So I know that you had a show, a kind of Blue Review show, and a whole experience really planned out for March, so. And that was canceled as well. And I know you raised the money to pay your performers, and I think that's amazing. Like, so can you talk a little bit about just as a producer, what that's been like? I haven't I've spoken to people who produce, but not as like close as you, where it's like, I'm like, whatever location you're in, I feel like you see the production shutting down, you see the venues closing down. So it's a different experience. So I know you had to show the piano fight. A whole experience with photographers and classes all planned out. Can you tell us a little bit about like when you realized that, we have to cancel this, and the responsibility maybe you felt as a producer for,
Yeah, that was a really interesting situation. We were really excited. We were trying this new foray into community driven events, and we were going to have classes before our next show hosted at Piano Fight, which was the original venue that we did the show at. For me, I sort of knew that it wasn't going to happen, but I I was waiting for the world to throw the gauntlet down. We may have kids burst in on this shortly. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So I was in close touch with the Piano Fight team. The four guys that own it are really awesome people, super community forward, and we're really in touch with all their producers and artists and making sure that people were doing what they felt comfortable with and that we were all abiding by the laws. And it went from like, okay, you can't gather in a venue that can host more than 200 people. And then it went down to 100. And then it went to, you can only gather in a venue that can hold 100 people, but it can only be at half capacity. And so we just kept watching the restrictions get tighter and tighter. And then about 5 days before our event was supposed to take place, they were like, hey, we have to close. Like, we don't fit into the city guidelines. And I said, I totally understand. It was hard, but I think that I had enough lead time processing it that it wasn't a surprise. And for me, the main, I'm blessed in that I produce shows and try to be a fiscally responsible producer, but I have a day job that like feeds me and my family. And so my main concern was a lot of the people that perform in Kind of Blue are full-time performers, and they lost everything, all bookings, all gigs, all teaching classes. So I tried to make sure that they got a little bit of money, and it's not much, but like anything helps, I think, in those situations. And the community was really great. People donated. We started the Kind of Blue review Blue Babe Challenge in order to kind of drive up a little bit of momentum around the PayPal pool. And then it just became its own thing that we did because it was fun. It's okay, Kumiho.
Yeah, it's all good. Laughter is necessary in these times as well.
Yeah, you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah, so I totally forgot about that. The Blue Bay Challenge was kind of initially kind of a campaign to bring attention to that. And then it kind of transformed into a life of its own that has been really beautiful way where you brought community together. And has that been a lot to do for you, like energetically, to like kind of keep that going for people?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes, but a lot of times I'm just like very full of that energy. Like you've seen me when I'm riding high and like I just talk nonstop and I have all of these ideas. And so for me, it was a great outlet at first where I was like, I can't sit still. I need to feel like I'm doing something and creating something and connecting to people. I also saw like a lot of my inner circle suffering, and so it gave them something to do. And it was really fun in that way. And then I had a major change in my work life. The company that I work at had to lay off 45% of its staff, and it just crushed me. And so I sort of stopped, and Kitty Oakes and I had been chatting, and she reached out and she said, hey, can I do the challenge this week? And I was like, yes, please. Like, I don't have it in me. And then I haven't done one yet this week. It's been the first time, and I'm trying to be gentle and patient with myself. But now that I'm sort of through this wave of chaos, I'm starting to have ideas and be like, okay, I think I want to do this again. Because it has to be, like, sometimes you go through the motions and that's okay, but most of the time I really want it to be authentic, and I want it to come from like a place of joy and energy, and not, I think if someone's just doing something for the sake of doing it, that carries through in the energy of the project. So I want to put joy into it so that people can get joy out of it.
I mean, I certainly have gotten joy out of it.
I know, you've done some great ones. I love yours.
And, I think especially if we don't have, it's some people, need prompts, and so these challenges, these kind of even live classes that people do, that structure in a time where everything just seems like everything's out of whack, anyone who's offering that, I think is such a big service and more than we've really comprehend until after we don't have it. It's like, wow, that has really saved me just in this little ways. And
I think it just gives you a sliver of normalcy where it's, like even doing this today, I've been spending all day in sweatpants and trying to clean my chaotic house and stuff. And to put on a stage face, even if I'm not going out into the world, like gives me a sense of self that I haven't had in a while. And so I think that that's the Blue Babe Challenge. That's the purpose of it too, which is, do you have that experience where like if there's no constraints, you have like no creativity, like float in space? for me, I work really well if people give me constraints or challenges, and then my creativity starts to blossom as I find ways around this. And it's like you said, people need prompts and they need structure and they need something to help them like unleash this confusing energy inside. So it's been good. And I think that all of us have to be gentle with ourselves, because what the world looked like at the beginning of shelter in place is totally different than what it looks like now. Like, we thought it would be shorter and we had all these great ideas, and now a lot of us are like fucking bored and tired.
Or just that, and to put on like an experience, even just live, it does take energy. It's almost like you know, when to kind of get things going. Even with this, I'm like, how long am I going to keep this going? Hopefully not
as long as you can, you know. Right. And then I think you have to be patient for yourselves, and for me it's like a long game. Like, I'm not in, I operate in like a long-term vision. Like, I have like I know what I want in the long run, and so I have to pace myself. And if pacing myself means taking a break for a week, no one's gonna fucking notice, you know. Like, we get hyped up in our own heads and we think we're the center of the universe and our podcast is like on everyone's radar, and in reality, like, I could stop doing it forever and people would be like, was that a thing? Oh, okay. You know, there's
people
so much
would notice if you stopped.
I mean, yes, they might notice, but I think that, like, in a way that I don't want to put pressure on myself to be like, people depend on this. Where it's like, you have to take care of yourself as a human being, or else you're just, you know, putting out empty fumes in the world.
Yes, absolutely. What is that? What is Clea saying?
I know, I'm trying to read it too. Seeing the bite-sized art pieces inspired by the Kind of Blue challenge has been strangely comforting, like seeing a bunch of people partaking in an event again. Aww. Thanks, Cleos. Yeah, one of the best parts, and the reason I kept doing it, is because the first week we did it, I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to do this. Like, it was a random idea. Me and the Blue Crew, which is me, Kitty Kapow, Barbie Bloodgloss, Betty Von Betty, and Tommy Goodwin. We're like, let's just try it. And the flood of like messages, and this was early in shelter in place when we were all really grasping at straws, the flood of messages and positivity and like, thank you for giving me a reason to get out of bed this morning, I'm going to do this challenge, was the reason that made me do it the following week and then the following week. So it's been as rewarding as it has been like an energetic output.
People are really commenting this time. It's not that I don't notice, but I'm super excited, and when I see new challenges in the community participation.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is like more like new stuff, fresh stuff. We all need to feel like a sense of newness and a sense that like there's something to look forward to. So I love seeing people come up with stuff. And I know you're on TikTok. I like made on TikTok, and that's how I knew my age. I was like, I'm confused by this new platform. But it's really fun for me to see the things that the youth, the things that like people are doing with a fresh perspective.
Totally. And TikTok, similarly to anything like a challenge, I think a lot of people gravitate towards it because it's already provided material. No one's actually using their own voice or music. It's like these recordings and we act them out, you know?
Which is great, because we don't have like, I don't have that much creative energy right now. Like, usually I would like costume every night before bed and like have all these ideas, and I have these like frantic bursts of like jotting crazy wild thoughts down. And these days I think all of us are in this like weird fog.
Absolutely. You kind of touched upon it a little bit, but can you give us some insight into what has been kind of your Shelter and Sparkle daily routine? I know you're working a full-time day job now as well. So like, what does every day kind of look like for you so far?
I was on a parenting panel earlier this week. It was like people who are working from home and parenting. And people got it. How do I phrase this without throwing shade? Because there was no shade. It was all love. Some people got on the call, and I think that people have a sense that they have to like put their best foot forward and make sure that they're like inspiring. And if they're in a place of telling people in the public something, they want to like tell them good things. And so people were like, well, my daily routine is like I check in with my husband 2 times a day, and my kids and I have this schedule. And then I kind of sat there silently, and finally was like, I just need to say that I don't have any of that, and I'm a hot fucking mess. And like, our schedule is mainly constrained by meals. Like, if we manage to feed me, because I also have 2 small kids at home, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So if we manage to get everyone to eat in the morning, the afternoon, and the night, and there's like minimal crying and no one bleeds, the day is a success. So I would say that like my schedule is up in the air. During the weekdays, I'm tag teaming, trying to be in the room working in this like office space that we have, and then tag teaming, trying to make sure that like I help with the kids and they feel like they have my attention, and my poor husband doesn't drown in. It's hard. Parenting 12 hours a day by yourself is not something anyone should have to do, and so we try to like support each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I mean, I love talking to all kinds of people in different like kind of muggle circumstances, for lack of a better term, because you know, you are also feeling impacted, your kids not having access to school and like all this stuff. And it's like, just your shelter in place is just so different because of all these like resources are just like, it all has to be in our container here.
It's nuts. It is, and I said this on the parenting panel, it is one of the hardest things I have ever done as a parent. But luckily, early on in the shelter in place, whatever time period, like week 1 or 2, when I had built this whole like work from, no, what do you call it? Homeschooling plan that had like a schedule where like we're gonna do math in the morning and like this and this and this, and it just all fell apart like within 36 hours. Like it was, everything was a fight, and I was exhausted and I couldn't manage keeping to that schedule as well as like doing the things I need to do at work. And so I was scrolling through the mixed blessing of Facebook, and there was a post written by a mom that was getting shared a lot that said something like, you don't have to worry, like all the kids are in the same boat. You do not have to worry about them being ahead at school or making sure that you teach them, you know, math or reading. You need to make sure that your kids feel like safe and secure, and that they look back on this as like as little of a traumatizing time as possible. And so that really helped me shift, and the priority has been like, how do we like keep our kids engaged with the world, not staring at screens all day, although screen time is through the roof. And I'm not sorry about it. But like also like having fun and thinking of this as sort of a special family time. And then finding out ways to communicate with them about what's going on in the outside world that gives them the truth without more information than they can process.
Right.
Yeah.
Woo.
I know. It's a lot. It's so much.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely getting, are you getting the like the nightmares and insomnia that everyone's getting?
I had that a few weeks ago. I'm sleeping a little bit better now. Like Blix and I like listen to this like audio book that's helped us kind of fall asleep. Or
please send me the link to that.
And also, you know, I started I started a job in healthcare like the week shelter in place happened, and so I've been going to work every day, like on site, and just working in that environment like with this context is just a different experience, because we are constantly having to adjust everything we do to take care of the patients and everything. So I'm just energetically I'm just tired in a different way, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's a completely different universe. Like
it kind of helps with sleeping.
Yeah, you're drained and exhausted, and like in bed is your sacred time.
Yeah. So, but no, thank you for all of that, because I'm just being so real about the fact that it's hard, you know, and
It's so hard.
Parents in burlesque, you know, and entertainment and all that. And I feel like we see you on stage being glory and beautiful and all that, and we don't understand or see what it takes to be able to do that and upkeep everything else. So thank you for just giving us some look into that. Yeah.
Right on cue, there is a small child banging at the door. We'll see if she can figure out the door.
You can join. I mean, this is all. Yeah, please.
That's the thing, is like you don't really have control over it. And like during my work meetings, it happens. So you guys want to say hi really quick? And my mom is gonna keep chatting. This is my son Ollie. Wanna say hi to Bessie?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's here. Watch it. Okay, the whole crew is here.
Yeah, please.
You still have the bow? Do you want to show Bessie? No, not right now.
There's something I want to tell you.
Can we talk about it in a little bit?
No, can I just tell you right now? Can I just tell you right now?
Sure, tell me right now.
We were at Oscar's house for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Ollie and us tried knocking on the door.
Yeah.
But nobody was home. And Oscar and Ruben downstairs and his car wasn't fixed.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. Mom is going to go. I'm going to retreat to the office. And we'll see where I hide during the workday.
I mean, this is as real as it can get. And
this is what it's like.
So they do your work calls too?
All day. It's like,
Oh.
you know, that BBC video that was viral because the dad answered it. It's like that for all of us all day, all the time now.
Oh my God.
It's intense.
Mommy,
Oh my God.
so we can hang out with you.
Yeah, afterwards.
Okay, well, let's just shift gears a little bit. Because it's a live experience, just like live entertainment on stage, anything can happen. Have you done a live show via Instagram or Zoom?
I haven't actually. I'm doing Drag Alive with the Stud, but we send them pre-recorded videos.
Okay.
So I haven't done a live performance. I'm gonna lock the door so they can't get in.
Yeah, take your time. I know they're so cute. The children are cute.
They are so cute.
Loving the babies. Everyone's loving it.
They're here. They're great. It's you know, in some ways it's fun because it's a distraction and you can't spend that much time thinking about yourself. And in other ways, it's just the most relentless Sisyphusian activity to keep them busy all day and engaged. And I know that being like at home alone is hard for everyone. I do, however, feel a pang of jealousy when I see people who are like, I just binge watched 7 shows on Netflix and cried. And I was like, I want to do that so bad. But my time will come.
Yes. Oh
yeah.
my goodness. So
yeah, so I haven't done any live shows yet. I've done the blue challenges, and I found that to be a little bit more of a comfortable medium for me because I like being able to edit a video. I find it hard to perform on screen. I know you've done it. How's the experience been for you?
It's just a different process, I think, you know.
Yeah.
I think because it's just small screen and it's a camera, you have to engage in a different way so people can enjoy it. I think if you're far away, you look a little blob, you can't really engage. So you have to, you know, my experience is just being really up and close, you know. And I kind of like this. It's an experience. I don't think it's what burlesque is. Burlesque, I think, can't really exist without the audience in a lot of ways. But
it's such a visceral art, and I think the thing that makes it what it is the interaction and the connection and the intimacy with the audience, and the fact that these performers have this like intense autonomy. And when you put a lens between it, it just changes the medium. Which is not to say it's bad. Like, I think that cam work is amazing, and there are people who are so good at it. And you know, edited videos are also incredible. And so I think this is a new experiment for all of us. And I'm interested. The thing I'm most interested to see is what happens after people start to be able to gather in place. It's going to be a slow rise, I think. And so I'm wondering how many folks will continue to have online events. And like, now that it's a new skill set and a thing in our repertoire, like maybe it's not going away.
Right. I've thought about that too. Like, how will it stay? Is it going to be this transient little thing we do just to while this lasts? And you're right. I mean, I think the most epic thing that's been awesome through this medium is that you can really connect with anyone. You can have your dream cast, you know. Or
you can have your dream cast, and you can expand your audience globally. Like, you know, people can dial in from anywhere in the world, and that's a big game changer for people. So I think people are going to continue to like experiment and iterate with this platform.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. Would you think Kind of Blue would ever do something like this in the future if this is like a reality for like a few months down the road, or is that something?
It's so I've batted this idea around in my head a lot. For anyone that's joining that hasn't seen the show live, Kind of Blue review, the heart and soul of it is that it is a group of incredible dancers from a few different dance worlds, a lot of burlesque, but then we have some Lindy Hop and some, we had blues fusion last time, and there's some other dance forms we want to get in there, but it's to a live blues band. And so I think that so much of it is a live art. One thing that we are exploring a new sort of way to put the same energy online that's not just like dancers. So I think I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Follow Kind of Blue review and find out.
Something. I know there's something up there.
Any advice for newbies on how to host a private invite-only show?
I don't know.
Get an OnlyFans? I don't know.
Yeah.
Twitch? I know everyone loves Twitch.
I think you can't strip on Twitch. It has to be pretty PG-13 on Twitch, I think, right? Or no?
I guess it's OnlyFans, yeah.
OnlyFans. I've even heard Zoom has like
Oh
system
yeah.
monitor nudity and all that stuff, so you can't really quite
Wow.
do that. Yeah, I'm sorry. OnlyFans would be a great resource, though. I totally made every account possible because it's just. I mean, for me, I think it's fun to explore different platforms. It's just
Yeah,
like I'm a
absolutely.
total techie. I like technology, so it's been interesting just to see all the ways that things can, and really merging our audience, like, us doing a live together, it taps into your fan base and your, community, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful way to connect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's great to check out everything. And I think even like we're testing the limits of these platforms and we're making them have to rethink the way that their platforms are built. And so there's a lot of things happening and changing, and everyone's learning and growing. So, yeah, you should try every platform possible.
Yeah. Okay, so a question I did have was, I know that you are local and your family is kind of all in the area. How have you been able to like connect with your family? Have you been able to like practice safe measures to still see them? Or are you really keeping distant from everyone, just keeping to your kind of immediate family and your home? How have you navigated?
Yeah. We're trying to be pretty good about the quarantine. The exceptions we made on the day after Easter, my folks came to the house and we have like a set of stairs that goes up to our porch, and so they kind of sat at the bottom of the stairs and put the Easter basket halfway, and the kids went and got it. Both my and my partner's parents are in their 60s, so we're trying to be extra cautious. I haven't seen my brother who lives in San Jose, and it's totally heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Um, we have a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and so we'll all do like walk by things where we just walk by each other's houses and like talk to each other from like really far away, just to feel like you're interacting with another adult. But yeah, we're not doing we don't have like a quarantine aside from the four of us.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yay. All right. So there's a lot of obviously heaviness with this reality. Has there been any kind of not silver lining, I don't know if that's the right word, but something that's been like strangely wow, like that made you realize, wow, this has been nice about this, or um,
Yeah.
that's popped up that you didn't realize that you wanted or needed, or yeah.
I think, I don't know about me personally. I think the thing I'm most excited about is seeing the way that it's shifted our cultural understanding of what is normal. And like an example I would give is that my kids, the oldest one is 6, and so they've grown up with Amazon Prime, and they think that mail comes, 48 hours after you order it. And they've had to, and like also our generation has never known scarcity, like little and our kids, like our generation has never known scarcity. We've hardly known hardship. Like and obviously people have had very different experiences life, but as a whole generation, we've known primarily abundance and easy access to things and general health and safety. And so this, I think, has changed the way that I explain things to my kids and helped me say, like, we can't waste things. Like, we can't just go to the store and get more bread if you don't like this bread. Like, this is the bread that we have. And like, if we order a thing and it comes in the mail, like, we have no idea when it's going to come. And so you have to change your impatience to like anticipation and joy. So I've seen that sort of more broadly with like a lot of society, where we're rethinking how much we use and how much we go through and what do we actually need to be spending money on. So I'd say that's the main silver lining. And I also say all of this with the lens that I'm in a place of total privilege, and I have managed to stay employed during this time, and I'm able to work from home. And so I think that I feel hesitant to, you know, tout the joys of quarantine when so many people are suffering.
Yeah, I think that's always important to acknowledge, right? There's always going to be someone who has who's suffering more than you, no matter the circumstance. And but at the same time, I think this kind of, I read this interesting thing recently where there's this collective experience of so much like uprooted trauma. It's like triggering different things for people around security, all of that. And then at the same time, we're all experiencing probably little selfish joys, you know? So I'm
putting extra butter on everything. Like, I'm just trying to and I'm taking a lot of baths and I'm reading books, which I haven't done in a long time because I'm normally like sprinting from place to place and going from work to shows to family. And so I'm trying to root myself a little bit. And we are doing the victory garden thing. Like, we planted radishes and a lemon tree.
I saw that. You love it.
Yeah. And it's that stuff has been, and it's insanely hard and exhausting, and I cannot wait to have a week of adult time.
Mm-hmm.
But it is insanely special to get this much time with our whole family together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that happens aside from like, you know, a week-long trip in the summer that we might go camping. Like we're not with each other 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of like little beautiful moments. And also, you know what, the thing that's been, I think, the most joyful for me to see is how many people are taking care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the thing that I think inspires me and sort of keeps me lit up, is that you see on social media and in your own friends and communities, people just taking care of people who need it the most, people offering things. Like many people don't have a lot, but they're like, take whatever I have. Like if you're in need, let me know.
Yeah.
So I think I've been really inspired, and especially, you know, all these venues and restaurants and people that we love who work in the nightlife who are in such need of help. A lot of people have rallied and supported them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest silver lining, is seeing people taking care of each other.
Absolutely. And how much, almost like collectively, how many resources we do all have when we band together, and like financially, how we can kind of take care of each other by kind of all just adding what we can. So that has definitely been a beautiful thing to witness too.
Yeah.
Very abundant community in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What about in the context of like burlesque and stuff? Like you kind of mentioned about how I see burlesque as this, you know, my taxes this year, for example, I was like, I told my tax, I like, burlesque is the business of losing money. So I was like, you're always going to be losing money on this business. And, but, you know, for me, I was kind of like, wow, like all the money that we spend on being able to upkeep this craft and all of that, you know, has there been a shift for you in perspective around your process of creating? Is there kind of this like pause for you around like these, I mean, I'm talking about you as a performer, not necessarily kind of blue and producing, but yeah, what has that been like for you?
That's such a great question. And I had already started experiencing a shift in myself as a performer, because I've been doing burlesque since 2012, and I've been performing since forever. I grew up doing dance, and then I did musical theater when I was younger, and then I majored in theater and dance in college. And so I've been on and around stages for as long as I can remember. And when I started producing, and when my energy started shifting into like more of a behind the scenes, like operations mode, I started to feel my performer self kind of like cocoon a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so that process was already happening. But I have felt like I've been itching to like find something that makes me want to create again as a performer. And I'm like, is there an act I want? Is there a costume I can zhuzh up? Like, I just want to have the motivation to rhinestone anything, and I don't right now. And it's really interesting. And you know, on the have you been performing in any shows, like I just think of myself so much as I want to be the vehicle that supports other performers from like glowing and shining and being amazing, and my own personal performing has been a little bit less of a priority right now.
Okay. Yeah. I remember you talking about that a little bit, and I think that's I would imagine it's a natural process as you go into more producing in a lot of ways. That just takes so much energy, and there's a responsibility there when you are booking folks and trying to navigate, like making sure they have a positive experience working with you and all that stuff. So that makes sense. And I mean, I have to kind of echo them that I don't produce, but I hate rhinestoning. I don't know if people know this, but I hate rhinestoning. I don't like creating anything.
I love, because it gets me off my phone at night. It's like this activity that's like kind of zen.
Yeah.
You said something that made me think of something. Oh, I think the other thing is, so I'm in my mid 30s, and I know who I am as a performer, and I know the things that I'm good at and the things that I enjoy. Can you hear him banging Hot Wheels against the door?
I love it.
Okay. And I also know my limitations and the energy that I want to put in and what I can get out of it. And that is sort of a way to say, like, I'm never going to be the queen of burlesque. I don't want to win Behoff. Like, my success as a performer is no longer on that trajectory. And so like I can perform and enjoy it and feel visceral and like get into character and feed off of the audience's energy without investing a ton and making myself like the focal point of my burlesque world right now. Like the show is my baby, and the whole Blue Babe family is my baby.
I would imagine it just takes so much like personal, and I mean, I would imagine it's really like relieving in a lot of ways to really be certain about that, and that takes so much guts to really admit, really. Like I feel
the people that get that far are incredible, and like
yeah.
they pour every ounce of their being into it, and it can happen in all ways, shapes, and forms. It's not to say like no one in their mid-30s didn't ever make the Queen, or people you know, doing different kinds of performances. Like there's so many paths to success, if that is your definition of success.
Right.
I've just come to realize over the past couple of years that that's actually not my definition of success. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to create a show, I want to create a community, I want to lift up other people, but like me as a performer is no longer the metric.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just a bit bigger vision. I think even if you are primarily a performer, you know, I think burlesque is such an industry and interesting industry in the sense of, and we've talked about this offline about how there is no clear path of success, but there is one in this weird way. It's like the pageant kind of route, but what is for me success means like I get to feed myself with my success, you know. So and
being a paid performer is a huge feat.
Yeah, I know. So I think that's a beautiful thing to realize, and for me, it's like coming back. I hope this is the experience for most people who've just been having a break and maybe doing some live stuff here and there, off recordings. Like coming back to the joy again of maybe of performing, you know, because you don't have. I don't know. I think the hustle is real, you know, and I enjoy the hustle personally, but it's not when something like the pandemic is happening grounds you to what is fucking real.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's another silver lining, which is like it's perspective. It's like you get spun up about getting booked or not getting booked, or getting stuck in your corset on stage, and then you go through a global pandemic and you're like, at least I'm alive and I have a forum to do the thing I like to do. Like I think that's the new grounding thing for me, which is like, well, thank God I have what I have. And the other thing I'll say is that like in my journey as a performer, I've had babies, and so I've had to take these sort of pauses in my development, and it's limited. It hasn't necessarily limited, but it has slowed down places that I might have gone as a performer. And I think for me, that's been a good thing, because it's made me like, again, reevaluate like, okay, what do I actually want? Like, what is the core? Why do I keep doing this when it's exhausting and expensive and, a little ridiculous?
I know these Banbury Cross. He's always like, we're not saving people's lives.
We are not saving people's lives. We are not. We are, we're not, and we are, because I will say that I think finding burlesque as someone who grew up in like a more traditional theater and dance background, the body image and the self-hate and the self criticism was so suffocating. And when I found this art form, it did in a way save my life. And not that I might have died if I hadn't found it, but that I might have lived a life that I think lacked the fire that I truly had inside of myself. I was pouring water on myself every day by criticizing my body or criticizing the way I looked. And this gave me like permission to give that feeling a middle finger. And so it has saved the Clara inside of me that was drowning.
Absolutely. I mean, burlesque is so necessary as an art form. I wanted to it needs to continue and thrive, because
so everyone should donate to the Burlesque Hall of Fame.
Yes.
They're raising money right now, so head on over there and throw them some dollars.
Yes, and I know, and what is your role with them right now? I know that you are new to joining their team.
This year I joined on as head of sponsorship. So I'm helping people who want to sponsor the after parties or the showcases or some of the other events surrounding those performances. And it's been wonderful to get to know the team and see the inner workings of the festival. And that event is near and dear to my heart. And it's been, I sort of think of it as like a pilgrimage, like I go to this dusty, sandy desert place and I have this incredible experience. So I was so happy to be able to jump in and support it. Obviously this year it's been a very interesting year to join, but seeing the team and how they pivot and reimagine and iterate has been great. So we'll see what happens.
I love that word, iterate. It's a good word. Yeah.
It's a big word for me. I probably said it 7 times on this because I think about I'm like allergic to perfection. I find it suffocating and crippling. And I think that if people get locked in this idea of needing something to be perfect before they present it to people, you kind of create a wall for yourself. And so for me, I'm all about iteration. Like I throw messy spaghetti on the wall. We figure it out together. That's not always the right approach. Like that means that I put some messy shit on stage.
I love it.
And I know, yeah, it's good. It works for me.
Totally. And I mean, I think that it's definitely a nice place to work from. You know, I think I work from a similar place. Like even this like interview series is like, yeah, I mean, I kind of love that it's just a platform on it. It's just a commentary of the times, you know, and I always look at things in that way, and it's so fun for me. But yeah, it's just the different versions of ourselves, you know, even your like journey around like being a lifetime performer and then finding a burlesque, being a burlesque performer, now being a producer, now being, you know, being a designer of experiences for people. You know, you have, I think, a very interesting insight into just like creating collective experiences for people when that's your work. You know, I would imagine your experience of all this is just very specific, you know, and
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, so we're coming up on like about 10-12 minutes left on the interview. If anyone has like questions, please feel free to ask them. Yeah, I would love to know some of your thoughts more about I think burlesque is such an interesting industry where the barrier of entry is so, it's like kind of non-existent in a lot of ways, right? And I feel like a lot, you know, one thing that's hard for people in being in the hustle is like, oh, I don't get booked, but now we can just do live shows. Anyone has a stage, you know?
Everyone's got a stage.
Yeah.
You've got a phone, you've got a stage.
Right. So it'd be interesting to see, like, it must be hard for the newer folks who are even newer to burlesque, you know, to want to start their first experiences probably through live now, you know? And I wonder how that, what do you think, any insight into how you think that might impact our industry in any way?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on how long this lasts. Right now, I don't think it's making, you know, anyone who had just been getting up and going before the quarantine, it's a few months delay. It's not 10 years of dealing with this online. I do think specifically there was one of the Blue Babes was debuting a solo act in our March show, and they were not able to do that. And my heart shatters when I think about them, and you know, the thing that makes me feel, and you've seen this, like when I'm faced with adversity, like, or what's the word? When I'm faced with adversity. Thank you. When I'm faced with adversity, I get motivated, like I get like really fiery. And so for me, that is like, I'm gonna get that fucking performer stage, and it's gonna be worth their talents, and they're gonna blow the world up. And so I just get a fire inside of myself when I think about the folks who are like on this exciting trajectory and then had to pause. So that's the feeling I have. I know some people have like a little bit of tea about like, oh, everyone's going to think that we all perform for, you know, $1 tips, and there's some negativity around it, but like we're all just doing the best we can. And I think those new folks, they're going to need a lot of extra guidance when we come out of this.
Yeah, and I feel like you are someone who has made themselves available for that guidance, especially if someone reaches out to you. And so you know, thank you for that. And also, I think you're right. There's and even just the people who are seasoned has been in this, like I said earlier, everyone's experiencing this so differently. So it's like we all need to like kind of, someone else was saying that's like, you know, some people have a lot of fire right now, out, you know, and then they're gonna crash at some point, and then the people who have been kind of more closed in will then come out, you know, we'll kind of take turns and take care of each other as we go, because like you said, we're all doing our best, and our best is so different every day.
Oh, every day. It's like I said, you know, I feel like the first 2 weeks of quarantine, I was just absolutely on fire, and I was, you know, like super motivated and making plans. And then I deal with depression in my everyday life. And so I know the feeling of like having a high and then having these lows. And I started to recognize the patterns in myself, and I know sort of when to retreat and take care of myself. Not always. Some of my close friends are probably rolling their eyes being like, bitch, you don't know. You just crash and burn. But I think that that's so true from what I've observed. And I want people to like give themselves permission to be outside of the narrative that you're one or the other. Like, I think that we are all going to have moments of being both. And that like, even if we're doing a really great job for a while and then we pause, and I'm saying this because this has been happening to me the last couple of weeks, like that's okay. Like I can get back on the bike of being inspiring. I'm just not there right now.
Yeah, thank you for saying. I think some people really need to hear that, you know.
Yeah.
I definitely do, as like a slow processor, you know. And yeah, so I think thank you for just really emphasizing that message, because sometimes people need to be told it's okay to stop, or it's going to be okay. You know, it has to be like that literal in the wording.
No, yeah. And there's a saying that like progress is not linear. And I'd say that's even more true right now, because like none of us are trying to achieve progress. We're trying to achieve survival, and we're trying to achieve like sanity. So I just want everyone to be kind to themselves right now. And I'm also saying that for myself, because I'm not always.
Yeah, and I really appreciate, you know, online you are very transparent, you know, and you bring it down for a lot of us, you know, and you break it down in a way that, you know, doesn't feel like you're dumping on anyone. It's just, you're just really, I think, creating opportunities for people to be seen, because you are allowing yourself to be seen. And
oh, thank you. That's what I go for, because it's a hard balance to strike, especially with social media, like to figure out a way to be authentic and not you know, putting forward a phony vision of success, while also not spewing just all the negativity into the world, which I think some people need to do. And I made a comment about this on Facebook. Like, I've been really proud of the people who need social media, because they're literally alone, and like that's their only way to be like, I'm suffering and I'm struggling, but they put like trigger warnings, and like they allow people like room from that experience if they can't absorb it. So it's hard, and I appreciate you saying that, because sort of my main goal in life is to like put more joy out into the world than negativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I definitely aim for that too, you know, and sometimes it's impossible, but that's when I shut up and go to sleep.
Yeah, certainly been an asshole once or twice in my life.
Awesome. Well, one of my kind of like lighthearted wrap up questions, and this might be a funny question for you, because you just totally talked about how you really transitioned more from like your identity around a performer into more, you know, kind of blue finger baby, and you don't have to like spell out any details that are not out yet, but what's like either if there is an act that you want to do as soon as you get to perform yourself, is there one, or is there like a specific experience you want to put on first after kind of this is all kind of, I think the clearing is going to be a process, obviously, but when there is that kind of real clearing, okay, we're all going to come back together again, what do you think that's going to be like for you?
For me, that question is kind of like someone asking me what my favorite band is. Like, I'm so hungry to put things into the world, like meaningful things. And I have talked to the Blue Crew a bit about like my visions. I think that there's going to be a slow return. And so in my mind, there's like a slow coming back show where it's like a super intimate, like really cathartic oasis of happiness, where we get to gather in this small, safe group where we probably all wear masks, and we probably all have hand sanitizer, and we'd be really careful about, you know, public health. And then a year from now, or whenever the anniversary is of the vaccine and this being behind us, I'm going to throw the biggest fucking blowout party, and I'm going to put my entire heart and soul and body into it. Yeah. So I dream about that constantly. It is something that like, it is my lighthearted thing where I'm like, someday.
I just got chills. I mean, no, totally, whatever it is,
you'll be there. Don't worry.
It'll be grand. It'll be
absolutely
so fun and so full of heart. I want to thank you again for an hour of your time. I know a lot's going on in your household, so thank you for carving out time to talk with me.
Always.
Yeah. For those of you tuning in, thank you so much for joining us and listening to this conversation. It will be available. On YouTube at probably the next week or so, after I kind of edit it and put it together. And then hopefully this is kind of this archival documentation of what's going on right now for burlesque artists during this pandemic. So Clara, I love you. You are amazing. Oh my goodness. So grateful to be able to call you a friend. Thank you for being with us today. And thank you everyone who tuned in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks everyone. And thank you for doing this, Bessie.
Of course. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Bye.